So, here we are for the spiritual practice. Are you ready? We are in the middle of a 7-week series. So if you're here for the first time, you've caught us in the middle of something. But the good news is that means that if you like it, you get to dive in and you get to catch up and you get to immerse yourself in this book. It's called Living Untethered by Michael Singer. And it's an incredible book about mindfulness, about consciousness, and about the practice of the principles. So I invite you into that. And if you want to join an after discussion group, we have a group that starts right after the service. So how much do you think my mug of water weighs? 3/4 of a pound? 2? Any other guesses? 2 pounds? It is a mug. It's filled with water, not lead. So, how heavy is this glass? How heavy is this mug? The absolute weight of the mug doesn't matter. What matters is how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, it's not a problem at all. If I hold it for an hour, my arm may start to feel a little numb. And if I hold it for a whole day, my whole arm may ache and it may even feel a little paralyzed. The weight of the mug has not changed. But depending on how long I hold it, the heaviness shifts. The longer I hold it, the heavier it becomes. The stress and worries of life are like this. So are our samskaras, as Michael Singer teaches in this text. Samskaras being the blockages that we have in life. A little blockage here or there, not that big of a deal. But if we hold on to it for a lifetime, it can change the course of life. Yeah? If you think about your worries and your stresses a little while, it's not a problem, but if you think about it a little bit longer, it begins to hurt, and if you think about them all day long, you'll feel paralyzed and incapable of doing anything. So always remember to put the glass down. That is a little blurb that I saw from a professor teaching his students. Teaching his students about the power of letting go and the power of release and the power of living on purpose. And our blockages in life are somewhat like holding this mug, our samskaras, the things that hit us, that hurt us, that then begin to frame and become the lens through which we live our lives. So that's what we're diving into today. We're diving into the idea of letting go, which is a traditional unity idea. And in fact, in this section this week, there are a lot of traditional unity ideas in here. Because this section, section 7, which is our 6th in the series, covers meditation, it covers affirmations, and it covers one of the 12 powers. Charles Fillmore called it renunciation. Michael Singer talks about it as letting go. And it's part of the spiritual practice and an incredible part of the spiritual journey. And very often, we sabotage ourselves because we don't understand this aspect of the practice. So here we go. Are you ready? I'm going to start sharing just a little bit. And I thought to myself as I was preparing for today, there are a few chapters in this book that I think should just be on the record as if you're new to unity and you really want to dive in, do that chapter and do that chapter. Because the chapter on meditation and the chapter on doing your work, doing our work, was so wonderfully presented. I mean, a lot of people have written about this, but the essence and the depth that Michael Singer conveys in the way he writes about this, it really brings it home in a way that other writers can't. And in a way that you could be around in Unity and New Thought for a long time and really not get this part. Really not get this part. And it's the part about projections. It's the part about doing your own work. It's the part about removing your blockages and letting go. So here we go. Michael Singer says, changing your relationship with your mind is a major part of the spiritual journey. You don't do this by fighting with the mind and resisting thoughts. You do this by learning not to listen to the mind. Now that sounds interesting, to learn not to listen to the mind. It's not a rejection of the mind, but you learned to presence the mind. He says that we all will feel things that bother us. Yeah. Anything lately? Yeah. It's a good week for this. You feel when something starts to bother you. If you want to grow spiritually, that's the moment when you do the work. If you want to grow spiritually, that's the moment when you do the work. When you feel something starts to bother you. He says this is the essence of spiritual growth. If you work on yourself, you're going to create a beautiful place inside to live. This is more important than your marriage or your family. Does that threaten anyone? Anyone yet? Ready to leave? Forget it? He's full of hogwash? This is more important than your marriage or your family. It's more important than your job or your career. You're working on yourself directly instead of indirectly. If you create a beautiful inner environment, you can have a wonderful marriage, a wonderful family life, and a wonderful job. But if you have a mess inside, you'll just be trying to use these outer situations to make yourself okay. It's a lot of pressure to put on your marriage, your family, your job, and your life, isn't it? Has anyone been the recipient of that pressure? Whew, right? He says this can work for short periods of time, but you don't want to build your house on sand. The alternative is when stuff starts to come up, the second you feel that change, relax. Don't even wait until you know what it's about. Just relax and let go. You can work with Samskaras at the energetic level rather than the mental level. This is much deeper. There are blockages in there, but they don't want to be there. They want to come up and be released. Surrender is the act of letting go instead of resisting by pushing blockages away. So what is our tendency? Our tendency when things come up that irritate us, that we notice we have blocks around, what is our tendency in the human condition? First of all, we often want it away, right? We wish it away. How fast can I make this go away? How fast can I not feel this? Another thing we tend to do is engage in projection, right? Something bothered me, so it's all about what they did, how someone else showed up, how something else happened, how the world outside of me is operating, and it's making me feel not okay inside. So I need to start working on changing it so that I can feel okay again. It's very ordinary, very much a part of the human condition. And what do we say to ourselves? Good luck. Good luck. Not only can we not change everyone and everything, but we can't understand rightly everyone and everything. And there's a different way to live. There's a different way to be. He goes on to say, eventually you will take it seriously that the purpose of life is letting go of these stored patterns. Your blocked past is keeping you from God, and it's keeping you from having a beautiful life. He goes on to say, learn to put yourself fully into freeing yourself of these blockages. Imagine, he says, being able to enjoy the world as it unfolds around you. Learning to enjoy it as it unfolds around you. And in order to do this, we have to stop resisting the things that we don't like. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because the more uncomfortable we are being uncomfortable, the more we call discomfort wrong, the more we will say our triggers are wrong and the problems are wrong, and the more externalizing of all this stuff we will have to do. So we will build up a war between ourselves and others, or ourselves and the world around us, or even a war within ourselves. But the spiritual practice shows us that we don't have to live like that. It doesn't have to be like that. But we have to wake up. And we have to begin to listen to the mind in a way that we don't team up with it to keep us asleep. And that's what we tend to do. That's the human tendency. We tend to engage it to stay asleep. Because if I don't like my discomfort, if I don't like my triggers, if I can't do the work of when I'm triggered saying, what is this in me? Where is the samskara? Where is the blockage? Where is the thing in me? And how can I bring this into peace, harmony, love, non-resistance, acceptance in this moment? If I can't do that work, then what I have to do in order to cope is keep closing my ears and closing my eyes and blocking my heart and stepping back and shutting myself off, or making demons outside of myself in order to cope. Because we are making machines. It has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. And what I've noticed about people on the unity path, on the new thought path, on the Buddhist path, on the deep spiritual path of any practice, is that they're about waking up inside. Waking up inside. It's like, what can I do now in this moment to heal thyself? Right here, with what I'm being given, right here. Just me in this space, with my mind, my spirit, and my being. What is my call right here? Singer goes on to share a whole bunch of tools and techniques and strategies, and they're wonderful, and they have helped me, and they have probably helped you. But those things also can come with a warning, because we're talking about a big thing. The master teacher taught it. Buddha taught it. It's that nothing else needs to come to you from you. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to shift for you to be okay inside. And that's a big promise. And our human selves, I think, don't believe it's possible. Right? I can't be okay with this and that. If you only knew what was going on, there's no way I could be okay when this person does that, or when this looks like that, or when the world is like this. We can even feel like it would be irresponsible to be okay inside, right? Like somehow being okay inside would mean we don't care. Well, if you know anything about the depth of forgiveness work doesn't mean that you're saying what happened was okay. It's saying that you're okay in the midst of what happened. It doesn't mean that you have to call everything that you don't like good or say you want more of it, but it's that we have to recognize that that does not get our power. That may have had it in a moment, in an experience. It may have had us, but it doesn't have us anymore unless we keep giving ourselves to it. So that's a big promise. This is big work. And when there's big work, there can be big promises. And there can be big things that come into our lives that say, if you just do this or do that, you'll be free. So here's the little warning from the center of what many people consider religion these days, which would, yes, include us in unity. There's a lot at stake when we're promising freedom, inner freedom. So the warning is not to get caught up. Not to get caught up in the promise from any place, person, or thing. Because this is available to each one of us in every moment unconditionally. You don't need money to have it. You don't need to be in the right place. You don't have to be born into the right family. You don't have to be born onto an island where they had the Bible versus a country where they didn't have the Bible. You don't need a priest or a minister. You don't need a tincture or a potion or a supplement or a vitamin or a diet. You don't need a psychic or you fill in the blank, right? None of those things are bad in and of themselves. In fact, so many are rich and good. But when we sell away our power, when we think that we need someone else to do something for us, to give it to us, to feed us, rather than feeding ourselves, we're failing to see what's right in front of us. If it's a therapist, if it's a program, if it's someone or something saying, you need this course, you need to read this book. You'll never be free until you pick up, fill in the blank, A Course in Miracles, go to the Landmark Forum, whatever it is. All of those things are good, and they can be good when we use them for good. But all we need is the spiritual practice. And that can't be bought, and it can't be given. It's freely available in every moment for each one of us. So anything that replaces our own judgment for someone else's judgment, someone else's story, someone else's emancipation technique, check it against our heart. Check it against the mind. Michael Singer says, your sincere intent to be free is more important than any technique you can use. Your sincere intent to be free is more important than any technique you can use. That is someone that's done their work. Because they're not saying, you need to get it here in this way from me now. Why is this work important? This idea of having blockages and clearing blockages, why? Well, everyone in your family knows why it's important. Every friend you have knows why it's important. Every employer or employee situation you've had knows why it's important. And at the times when we've been humble with ourselves, we know why it's important. Because these blockages can make a mess out of our lives. And the good news is, in any and every moment, a mess can be made into beauty. And we're good at doing that because we are beings of light. But if we don't want to repeat the same patterns that keep us feeling caged, keep us feeling stuck, keep us feeling lonely, keep us feeling betrayed, keep us feeling, you fill in the blank, whatever it is that's part of your story, then we have an opportunity to do the work. Singer says, real spiritual practice entails devoting every moment of your life to your liberation. Life is your real guru. It's challenging you to either move further away from self or come back to self. Life is your friend. Everything that happens in life is an opportunity to get better at freeing yourself from yourself, dying to be reborn. Make this the most important thing in your life, because it is. He goes on to say that when you engage in this practice of mindfulness, of looking at your blockages, he says you will have the power to decide what to do about how you feel. There will be time you've never had before between the event and your reaction to it. Things start to unfold as if in slow motion, even reactive thoughts and emotion. This gives you time to relax and let go. Has anyone else noticed that about a practice, about when you engage in meditation? And one whole section is about meditation as a tool. And he warns us, he says, don't go into meditation thinking you're going to have a spiritual experience. Don't even go into it wanting to have a spiritual experience. And in fact, if you go into meditation and it's just frustrating and you just hear a lot of thoughts and a lot of talking and you're just sitting there watching it going, ugh, this is it? Yeah, that's it. Because that's part of the practice. Being able to be the one that is witnessing it, be the one that is aware that that is going on is part of the practice. Because we can start to see the thoughts, we can start to see the emotions, we can start to learn them and recognize we are not them, but we are the witness of them. And that is one step in the right direction of not being constantly moved by these thoughts. I remember in the beginning of my mindfulness and meditation practice, I remember thinking, big stuff's supposed to happen, big stuff's supposed to happen. And I wasn't, noticing any big stuff. And boy, talking mind, talk about having a talking mind. And then I started noticing something else, kind of like what Singer's saying about the space between things. I started noticing that in my waking interactions, in the time that I normally would just go about my business, there was more space between my thought and my reaction. There was space to choose how I wanted to show up. There was space to question a thought before I just went down and got on the whole path of getting sucked up by the drama of whatever my mind was feeding me. And I remember thinking, I wonder if this is happening because of a meditation. Is this happening because I'm meditating? But how would that work? It's not like I'm meditating right now. But somehow that meditation created a whole spaciousness within, that all of the waking time was different. And not only being able to have the space between thoughts and reactions and actions, but also being able to have divine appointments and see things in different ways, slowing down enough that all of a sudden my work list of all the things that I had to do, all the calls that I had to make, all of a sudden they were taking care of themselves. The people were walking in the door that I had to meet with, but I didn't have to call to make an appointment. Someone else was sending an answer to something that I would have had to reply to, and it's just happening. I began to notice how life was weaving itself together because I was relaxed. And I was just a little farther back, and I could hear a little more. I could see a little more clearly. All of that from putting moments of mindfulness and meditation into daily life. That's what the Fillmores taught in the early Unity days about the practice, and that's what spiritual teachers throughout time have taught. But somehow in the human condition, we still train our psyches rather than training them and investing everything in being mindful. We encourage them to react. We reward them for reacting. And we run from the real work. Have you ever met someone that it's so hard to talk to about anything deep or anything real when you're talking about relationship or conflict resolution that no one even tries? Probably everyone has one in their family that no one even tries, right? Because it's so reactive that you can't even really get started. That's probably someone that wants to remove their blockages more than anyone else. But the mind is being tricked to think if it gets uncomfortable, if I have to look at it and call it real and see it, there's something wrong, so they run. And some of them have learned to run by throwing things, like spiritually throwing stuff at everyone that's trying to be present. And so everyone's learned to not get hit in the head with cans, and what happens? Well, no one even tries anymore with that person. Right? Jack it to Jesus. That's what they used to say in the Baptist church? Jack it to Jesus, because it's not mine to do. And that's how the universe responds when we keep having things come up, but we say, oh, I don't want to see that. So what if we turned it around and we just leaned in? Let me see that. All right, there's a gift here. Let me see that. Let me see that. I know it can't kill me. I know it can't hurt me. It's going to be uncomfortable, though. And if we just dove in to allowing ourselves to see it, rather than putting our foot on the brakes so strongly, put your foot on the gas and just cruise. We can probably never fully train our reactivity out of our bodies, but we can learn to wake up. Michael Singer says, learn to love and appreciate your past, fully embrace it, thank it for teaching you, and let go of any judgment that there was something wrong in it. Your past is uniquely yours. It happened. It's sacred. It's beautiful. No one else ever had it, and nobody else ever will. Embrace your past. Hug it, kiss it, love it to death. Can we do that with our triggers? Because they're all born from the past. Our reactivity all comes from the past. So can we learn to love it? Can we dive into it? The alternative is not great. The alternative is that we might begin to live our lives according to unconscious patterns. And if you don't think samskaras have energy, and that's the blockages, they have energy. A friend was just telling me the other day about the divorce story from forever ago, and saying that it started with a moment of cheating and realizing, okay, cheating happened, but I'm not going to really leave the relationship. We have a family. We've started a family. We're going to stick with it. And then went on to have a second child, and it didn't last. Everything blew up. And then in reflection on telling the story, they said, that's exactly what happened with my parents, too. They got married. They had a child. There was a cheating incident. They talked about it, decided to move through it. A number of years later, they had another one, and then it blew up and they left it. What are the chances of having the same pattern? What are the chances of parents having children at the same time that their parents had children, whether it was intentional or not? You know, the same thing happening at the same edge, at the same time, in the same way, especially when it's something that maybe you might think, if I was fully awake in this moment, maybe I would choose differently. Like maybe I would choose to do it differently. But somehow it just happened. The same thing that happened with my grandmother, happened with my mother, happened with me, happens with my child. That's the power of a samskara. It's the power of unconscious and unhealed energy. And again, the practice is to make it all light, right? There is nothing that can be meant for destruction or chaos that cannot be pulled into the great good. And that's the beautiful truth. But the power of waking up and the power of mindfulness is the power of living a life of freedom. Michael Singer gives us 3 core tools in this section. 3 core tools to start kind of unearthing when we find ourselves bothered, when we find ourselves in our patterns, when we find ourselves in our blockages. And the first of which is very familiar to Unity folks. It's positive thinking. Not to reject our thoughts, but just to replace them, to insert wherever you start to hear a negative belief system, a negative pattern, to take it, to listen to it, to learn it, and to just slide something else in there. Put a positive in the space where there is a negative. He goes into talking about Yogananda and Yogananda having that teaching. And if you know the core of unity, Charles Fillmore had that teaching, and unity was born in that teaching. And a lot of people will say, well, just for one negative thought, just replace it with one positive thought. But mental science tells us, you better try a 5-to-1 ratio. Because truly, in order to get over some of the blockages, in order to help the mind unleash itself from negative bias, you need to have the input of at least 5 positive, affirming things to replace the mind's magnetic ability to suction cup on whatever was bad, whatever felt negative, whatever made you question yourself. The next is a mantra. Using a word or words, a phrase, and allowing yourself to just shift directly to that. So when we feel a blockage, when we feel stuck, when we feel triggered, not shoving it down with a mantra, like a temper tantrum you don't want to listen to, but pulling in the mantra, as Michael Singer says, like it's a vacation from the mind. A mantra can be anything. I have a ringtone. I had some triggers with my phone and how often it would go off. My relationship with my phone. So I ended up putting the Gregorian monks on as my ringtone so that every time I hear it, I have another friend that her morning ringer is, "It's a beautiful morning." Find a mantra. Find something that you connect with, a word or words. I have a beloved in my life who was reflecting on parenting, saying that when her kids would get hurt, her first question would be, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then she was witnessing another parent, and when that parent's kids would get hurt, they would say, "You're okay, you're okay." And she noted it and she said, I wish I had that when I was raising my kids. And it's not saying you're okay to shove down or push away their experience, but to be in the truth with them, to go, whatever this is, we're okay, we're okay. So can you think of a mantra that you'll take with you this week to implement when your mind starts racing, when you're holding the glass and it's getting heavy and you realize you're gripping it? You're gripping it, and that's 6 ounces of water, 6 little ounces of water. Feels like a lead weight that is paralyzing you. Can you just set the glass down and lift up the mantra? The next key that Singer shares with us is to witness. Just to stop, to notice, to sit back, to relax, and to start to watch the movie roll. Witness the play that's going on within you and in front of you. Watch it with mindfulness. Sit with it. Let it flow. If it's something in the body, bring the attention to it. Bring the breath to it. But become the witness. Loosen your grip. It's time to watch my breath, calm down, and learn to enjoy the experience, Michael Singer says. Don't fight, just replace. He's talking about willfully engaging these techniques to shift our mind to the affirmation, to shift our mind to the mantra, or to shift our mind to the witness self. To remember that we are okay, and to shift the focus of our consciousness from the samskara-generated thoughts into the new experience. He goes on to say, spirituality is not about changing the objects you're looking at. Spirituality is about accepting the objects, but not getting sucked into them. It's about being detached and feeling at peace with whatever your mind and heart are doing. When you are totally comfortable with everything that can come from your mind and heart, they will stop creating inner disturbances. He says, you are in the seat of awareness, way back inside, watching the dance of mind and heart. Michael Singer says, you can truly be free. Be free of your past. This is what living untethered means. It means to let go of yourself, to transcend your personal self as Buddha taught, to die, to be reborn as Christ taught. It is the essence of all spiritual teachings, and it is the truth. Everyone is capable of freeing themselves if they are willing to do the inner work. Namaste. So let's take a moment to breathe into meditation together. To just inhale and exhale into this space of release, this clearing. There may be things I'm aware of and things I'm unaware of that I am ready to release. Sweet Spirit of life, peace, love, and freedom, show me. I am awake now. I am willing now. I release any resistance to seeing how I may contribute to keeping myself stuck, down, limited. Inhaling and exhaling, I breathe into my sincere intention to be at peace with the world within me and the world around me. To get clear as I clear out this space of projections, rejections, toxicity and turmoil. And instead, I just look at the world within me and the world around me, giving thanks for the reminder to go within. The reminder to be the witness. Inhaling and exhaling. I recognize I have the power to decide how I show up. I show up with mindfulness, defenseless, awake and aware. I let everything come up. Breathing into the possibility of Michael Singer's words, if you process your experiences properly, they will always be there to serve you, never to haunt you. I try on his words, the world is perfect for each person's growth, but not for the reason you think. The world is perfect for everyone's growth because everyone is looking at the world through their own blockages. Sweet Spirit, let me see. Let me hear. Let me release. I'm here to be awakened. I'm here to contribute. I'm here to welcome in the light, to be in the seat of awareness, way back inside. Inhaling and exhaling. Relaxing and releasing. Entering the still space within. By the power of this practice, may all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know God as love and themselves as emanations of this love. May all beings know we are born blessed and here to be a blessing. Namaste.